Okay, so we are looking at an aerial view of Mount Rainier. Of course, this big stratovolcano located here in Washington State. You can see the big volcanic crater right in the center of this image here. You can also see all the big glaciers Rainier is famous for. Rainier has more glaciers draped across her than any mountain in the lower 48. So really cool mountain. What we're going to do here is walk through the climb over the next 3 days, what to expect, where you're going to be, all of that important introductory stuff so you know what you're getting into. So what we're going to do is start tomorrow at Paradise. Paradise is at about 5,400 feet of elevation, right at the edge of the tree line. It's kind of where the road stops. It's where you're going to park, and then where you're going to head up the hill. So at Paradise, we change into all of our climbing clothes, make sure our backpacks fit well, get into whatever footwear we need to be in, and then we ascend some mellow trail about mid-July onwards. Most of this lower trail, the green area you can see is alpine or subalpine meadow. Really beautiful, mostly snow-free. The way we climb is move about 1,000 feet of elevation gain or an hour, something like that. And then we stop and we take a break. So we have food, water, reapply sunscreen, chapstick, go to the bathroom, take photos, whatever it is we need to do. We usually take a 5 to 10 minute break, depending. And so from Paradise, we head up to our first break right at the edge of the Nisqually Glacier. As you can see here, this really big glacier kind of down to the left. We're just at the edge of that glacier. And from here, let's see if we can adjust our viewpoint just a little bit. We can start to see the first major chunk of elevation gain that we're going to do. So from our first break, we're going to head all the way up. You can see a long switchback trail all the way up to Panorama Point. Lots of elevation gained, and then typically we move past Panorama Point to our second break spot. Up here on this big bench, we'll go ahead and zoom out here. You can see the start of this big bench that sweeps up towards Pebble Creek, our third break spot, and up the Muir Snowfield towards Camp Muir. So from our second break spot, we're going to pass an area called Pebble Creek. So in the summer, this is usually a decently rushing little creek. Really pretty spot. And from there, we'll head to our third break spot. Again, about an hour or 1,000 feet in a single push without stopping. And then we take a break right up here on the Muir Snowfield. So the Muir Snowfield, as we can see, is this big area. You can see the little shaded circle. It's basically a really, really old, really stable glacier. So there's effectively no crevasse danger, especially in the middle part of the summer here. We don't need crampons, ice axes, and we don't need to rope up. It's a very safe place to travel. So we'll head up and up and up the slope of the Muir Snowfield up towards a spot called Moon Rocks. It's a good landmark. You can see it from below. It looks really cool. All the way to our fourth and final break spot. About 9,200 feet, something about like that. And from there we can see Camp Muir. It's still a little bit of ways away. There's still a bit of effort required to reach it. But at our final break spot there, we'll kind of get ready, take a couple deep breaths, and then head the rest of the way up to Camp Muir. So Camp Muir is seated on this rock ridge just at the edge of the Cowlitz Glacier. That's just above Camp Muir in this imagery. You can see the Cowlitz Glacier labeled there. Lots of really, really big crevasses out there. It's pretty cool to look from Camp Muir across onto this glacier and really start to see some features. Camp Muir is where we're going to sleep the first night. You'll eat dinner there, get a good night's rest, wake up the next morning, eat breakfast, and then do some training. So right at the edge of Camp Muir, we do self-arrest training, roped travel training, crampon training, everything you need to move higher up on the mountain. About midday, we take about an hour and a half journey across the Cowlitz up to Cathedral Gap, which we can see here, a little gap in this rock ridge. And then we head up to Ingram Flats. Ingram Flats is about 11,200 feet, so about 1,000 feet higher than Camp Muir. Really pretty spot. You can look sort of down and out across the landscape. You can see a ton of terrain to the east and then down to the south. Really, really beautiful, unique campsite. At Ingram Flats, we try to take it really easy and go to bed early. So one of the reasons we go to bed early is that we get an alpine start very late in the day on day 2 or very early in the morning, day 3. This means waking up between about 10 p.m. and 3 a.m. depending on weather and conditions. So during our sleep that evening, we really just try to get horizontal. So even if all you get is a couple hours of time where your body is still and you're laying in your sleeping bag, that's fine. If you can manage to actually sleep for a couple of hours, that's great too. We wake up for that alpine start. So again, kind of bridging between day 2 and day 3. Have some coffee, tea, whatever we like to drink, have a little bit of oatmeal, some snacks, and then we head up the mountain. So the first thing that we do is we access the Disappointment Cleaver. This is the route's namesake. And you can see here the Disappointment Cleaver cleaves between 2 of our big glaciers here. So the Ingram Glacier and then the Emmons Glacier. We ascend this ridge because it's easier travel than the very broken, steeper sections of glacier on either side. And we typically don't stop till we're on top of the cleaver. About 12,500 feet, something like that, we take our first break. It's about 1,000 feet out from Ingram Flats. From there, we'll go ahead and scroll out here. You can see there's a big chunk of the mountain with this shading. So the route from the top of the cleaver could go anywhere in this area. Sometimes it heads up and climbers right out towards the Emmons shoulder. Sometimes it heads left over towards Camp Comfort. Sometimes it punches straight up towards the crater rim from the top of the cleaver. It just really depends on the year. Glaciers, as you know, are rivers of ice, so they move, they shift, they break, they change every year. And even within a season, we sometimes have significant route changes. So what we do is do our best to make sure we've got a great route for you, but be prepared to be flexible, be prepared for a little bit of switchbacking, a little bit of traversing, really whatever it takes to head up the mountain. So our second break spot on our summit day is what we call high break. High break happens about 13,500 feet, keeping with that theme of moving about 1,000 feet of vertical and then taking a break. But as we discussed, the route can go just about anywhere. And so you need to be prepared to be flexible. This could be a break at 14,000 feet. It could be a break at 12,800 feet. It really just depends. But we do our best to find a good, safe break spot that's about 1,000 feet higher than the top of the cleaver. From there, we head up to the crater. It's a really special moment to crest the crater rim. We do typically crest the crater rim. I'll just pan back here. We do usually crest the crater rim at its low spot. So the volcanic crater of Mount Rainier tilts a little bit to the south-southeast. And so be prepared when you tick that crater rim. You've got a little bit further to go to reach the true summit, but it's not so bad. It's about a quarter-mile push and just shy of a couple hundred feet to reach the true top of the mountain. The other thing I'll say is anywhere on the upper mountain here, the weather can change and impact your climb significantly. So occasionally we have a climb that will make it to the crater rim, but that's the last safe spot you can climb to, and you need to turn around without heading to Columbia Crest. The wind can change dramatically once you've crested the crater. The same goes for that area between the Disappointment Cleaver and High Break. There are times where the winds are just insane on the upper mountain. And so you can move from fairly calm terrain, doable conditions, into not doable conditions. So just be prepared to flex with the weather. It's important to reach the top. We love doing that, but it's more important to make it safely back down. So let's talk about that for a second. Obviously, the hope is that in a couple of days here, you are going to reach Columbia Crest. 14,410 feet tall, the summit of Mount Rainier. That's where the summit register is. You can get excellent views of the entire area. Your journey's not over at that point. We're going to go ahead and pan back and look at the entire route here that we just climbed. So it's really important that you keep enough gas in your tank to make it all the way down to the parking lot from Columbia Crest. We take a couple of breaks on the way down, but after climbing all the way up there, in that same day, we do descend the entire way back down to the parking lot. So it's a big day, even after summiting. You've got to drink water. You've got to eat food. You need to pay close attention to sunscreen, chapstick, those kinds of things, or you can get down to the parking lot pretty smoked, and we don't want that to happen. So take really good care of yourself. be metering your energy. Make sure you're saving energy for that descent. Getting to the top isn't enough. We descend that route all the way back down to Paradise.